The story of Joni Mitchell and Woodstock.
Well, everybody has heard about Woodstock, and maybe a lot of you were there. This is a song called Woodstock, and has a chorus that goes, "We are stardust."
Be at the Woodstock Music and Arts Fair, August 15th, 16th, and 17th in Bethel, New York.
More than 200,000 followers of pop music have jammed the Catskills mountain hamlet of Bethel for a rock music festival.
The 1969 Woodstock Festival is sometimes thought of as the peak of countercultural activity in the 1960s. The organizers were inspired by the success of the Monterey Pop Festival and other large events like that, and they wanted to have a concert of their own. They sold something like 186,000 pre-sale tickets, and they assumed that a much lower number would actually show up.
Are you clear on all of them?
They had a lot of issues with the location. Organizer Michael Lang wanted to have the event in Woodstock, New York, and even named it after the town, all in an effort to get Bob Dylan, who was living in Woodstock at the time, to come out of his nearly 3-year retirement after his near-fatal motorcycle crash in 1966. But the permits kept being rejected by town councils, and they ended up in Bethel on Max Yasgur's farm, 70 miles away from Woodstock, and Bob Dylan never showed up.
I had to come here because I know a lot of people are going to be here, and I'm planning to run into them.
I'm not really too interested in the people that are playing the music, and I'm not really too interested in the people. It's just,
So they prepared for about 150,000 people, expecting about 50,000 per day over the course of the 3 days. And when 3 times that number started to pile in, breaking down the fences around the vicinity, everybody started to panic.
You don't even have to bother bringing your tickets or anything, because they aren't going to collect them. There's no way they can. They got a fence that's like half up, and there are people just sitting in that field. It's really beautiful.
Do you realize that half of these people don't have tickets? And there are people 5 miles away sitting on a highway with tickets who've driven 2,000 or 3,000 miles. Whatever has to be done to make it right, this is wrong.
Still waiting for the arrival of Group 1. Please bear with us. Due to the traffic problems, we're going to have to start a little later.
Stop being promoter, be a producer. You gotta try to be a producer. What do you do with the people that are here? Take care of them. What's happening? This show starts at 1 o'clock?
Getting our show on in about 5 minutes. If you just keep cool, relax, we'll be with you as soon as we can. Thank you.
Maybe there'll be a few more people here by then. I don't like all this puny gathering like this.
It was like they knew. There were advertisements in local newspapers all across the country, but it was the ad space that they took out in a new rock and roll magazine called Rolling Stone that really amplified the intention of the event. The buzz at this point was spreading so quickly that the New York Times picked it up, and soon everybody in America was either excited or dreading the arrival of a massive gathering of hippies to the little town of Bethel, New York. The list of artists on this bill was staggering. The Grateful Dead, Joe Cocker, Jimi Hendrix, Jefferson Airplane, Sly and the Family Stone, Janis Joplin, Joan Baez. It was all kinds of different genres, from folk to funk to psychedelic rock. Times were bleak. The previous year had seen the most American casualties in the entirety of the Vietnam War, and it didn't look like it was getting better anytime soon. Richard Nixon had just been inaugurated as President of the United States. And then, less than 2 weeks before Woodstock, Brian Jones, one of the founding members of the Rolling Stones, one of the biggest bands in the world at the time, was found dead. First member of the 27 Club since Robert Johnson. May 1st, 1969, Joni Mitchell releases her second studio album, Clouds, and she was in the middle of promoting it. She had engagements in New York the same week as Woodstock and fully planned to attend the event. Woodstock was pretty poorly organized, and the lineups kept changing, resulting in a lot of artists being asked to play last minute and a lot of other ones dropping out. So Joni probably would have ended up playing, if she had been there. She was traveling with her manager at the time, a guy called David Geffen, and they were paying really close attention to the news leading up to the day of Woodstock. When it started to become clear that this was going to be a much bigger event than anybody anticipated, and that the organizers had not planned for this, Geffen thought long and hard about how worth it would be for Joni to go to this thing, when she had a planned appearance on the Dick Cavett show the next Monday.
It's very
A conspicuous good
I guess everybody knows you're from Canada. Your work is sort of unpolitical in general, isn't it? You don't...
Well, yeah, I sing mostly about love and things that I can understand. I don't understand politics, mainly because in Canada we just never do anything very political. The biggest political news that I can remember ever there was the choosing of the flag. And that took 3 years. And they finally chose one that none of us liked.
Fantastic
and it faded and everything. And, oh, well.
And so they decided instead to stay in their hotel room in Manhattan for the weekend and watch Woodstock on TV. And so the event occurred. Almost 500,000 hippies in a field, declared a disaster area by the United States Army. They had supplies lifted in by helicopter. The rain came and things got even more chaotic. Now everything was wet. The mud was out of control. Everything was breaking down. Sanitation, communication, everything. Some people were so desperately trying to get home, but there was no way out. The roads were blocked for miles and miles and miles. And somehow, one way or another, the music kept playing. Joni Mitchell, one of the most insightful poets of the 20th century, watched from afar as the defining event of her generation took place. She didn't experience the discomfort or the chaos, but she also missed the magic and the grief that she felt for the decisions that they'd made, even if they were probably the right ones, wore heavy on her shoulders. So she took to her piano and wrote Woodstock, a song that was as much about the festival itself as it was about the idealism and the beauty of the people and the collective feeling that brought them all together in one place at one time. They were so full of hope and they were looking for something special, a place to get their souls free. It was this feeling that if they loved enough and they wanted it enough, that they could actually maybe change the world, that they could turn bombers riding shotgun in the sky into butterflies. They were stardust because of how pure their intentions were, how much they wanted a different world. So unaware at the time that within the next couple of months after Woodstock, their story would come to a very bitter end. Joni Mitchell admitted afterwards that if she had been at Woodstock, she probably wouldn't have been able to write about it as eloquently. She probably would have been disillusioned by the backstage politics and the disorganization and the resulting negative consequences. And maybe she wasn't meant to go for that reason. Joni Mitchell performed Woodstock for the very first time about a month after the festival at the Big Sur Folk Festival and blew everybody away. It was inspiring and really quite sad for the listener. Other artists thought that she had captured the vibe of the event so perfectly. Joni's piano version, so soft and haunting, really brought out the melancholy of the way that a lot of people were feeling at the end of the 60s. This sadness of feeling like they'd been defeated, feeling like their dream didn't really mean much, and that they probably couldn't actually change the world. But one time they thought they could, and it was beautiful.
I don't know how to speak to 20 people at one time, let alone a crowd like this. But I think you people have proven something to the world. This is the largest group of people ever assembled in one place. We have had no idea that there would be this size group. Your producers have done a mammoth job. But above that, the important thing that you've proven to the world is that 500,000 kids can get together and have 3 days of fun and music, and have nothing but fun and music. And I God bless you for it.
Maybe the best known version of the song is by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, as the first single on the album where Neil thought to add amplifiers to those beautiful melodies. Their version of the song went to number 11 on the US Billboard charts, and was used for the end credits of the documentary that was released the same year. Woodstock is one of those events that's been both demonized and idealized so frequently in our society that the actual history and intention of the event itself has kind of been lost in the chatter. Luckily for us, we had somebody like Joni Mitchell to capture all of the nuance of an entire generation's end in one song.